Welcome back to the Weekly Manga Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about all of your favorite ongoing Japanese manga. This week, Sci-Fi is back, baby, with a vengeance. Off the heels of Dune 2 and The Three Body Problem on Netflix and some amazing new manga dropping, we're going to be taking a deep dive into 3 brand new sci-fi manga series on today's show, all of which really kind of rock. All that, manga news, and more coming right up. Hello again, my name is Bruce. I am the proprietor of the White Gray Black YouTube channel, and this week I am joined again by the fiction to my science, Gautam.
Hello, hello.
All right, brand new science fiction manga. Gautam, we're going to be talking about 3 series today. Those 3 series are the series Ghost Fixers by Yasuki Tanaka, Ankoku DELTA by a mangaka named Alpa, and a series called The Pool by Sakurai Gamon. These all are either have 2 or 3 chapters. The first, last one have 2. The middle one has 3. And like I said in the start, they all are pretty good. Like impressively good to be able to group these together. I would even group them with what's that Russian baby manga? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. The Boss Baby spinoff.
Yeah, the Parasite successor. We talked about that maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago. You can go check out on the podcast channel here. Which of these?
If we include that, all 4 are good.
All four are good.
Surprisingly solid.
Yeah, lots of really good, and a couple. There's a couple other science fiction ones that we didn't include that are maybe slightly less. But there's one about a really smart kid going undercover in some planet high school thing. I don't know. I'd have to look that one up. That one was maybe not that great. But of these 3, Gautam, of Ghost Fixers, Ankoku DELTA, and The Pool, let's try to figure out which one, because we both just said right before we start recording, we both really like these, thought they're all really good. Let's try to guess which one is each other's favorites.
Alrighty. Yeah. Okay, I think I know yours. I'm going to guess The Pool.
Okay. I do like The Pool. I don't actually think it's my favorite, though.
Okay.
I think we might actually have the same favorite, because I think yours is probably Ghost Fixers.
It was Ghost Fixers,
and
hands
I think
down.
that's my favorite too. I think that one is awesome, like far and above. It has humor. It has good visual storytelling. It's essentially an SCP story. I think that one is definitely my favorite too. And The Pool I do really like, because I'm a pretty big fan of Ajin, though I haven't finished the series. I read a lot of it, and the art in The Pool is like, holy wow. You'll see it in a little bit up on screen here. But yeah, Ghost Fixers is definitely my favorite. In fact, that's going to be, I think, the first thing we talk about here.
I expected to like it the least. I read it last because I thought the name was really stupid. And I still think the name is terrible, but God, what a good first chapter. That was a great story.
And like chapter 2 came out, I think, today. I guess chapter 2 would be, Thursday, if you're listening to this later on in the week.
This is the only chapter 2 I didn't read.
Yeah, and chapter 2 is also really good. A little bit more of a part 1 of part 2 kind of setup thing. But yeah, chapter 1 of Ghost Fixers is really good. So this is Ghost Fixers. This is by Yasuki Tanaka. You may recognize that name. This is the manga creator of the series Summertime Render, which was a really big manga hit, I think, last year in 2023. A lot of people really liked it. I've seen some scenes from that. That is like top on my list of like anime that I really just need to go watch. Because there's a bunch of anime that's been adapted from manga that I've already read that I'm sort of like, yeah, I'll watch the clips of Frieren on Twitter or whatever. But Summertime Render, I heard a lot of cool things about. It seems awesome. I mean, this is the same author, right? This is Yasuki Tanaka. So in my opinion, 2 certified hits already. This one, I have some pictures here. We don't necessarily have to go through exactly what. This one strikes me as maybe the most SCP-like.
It is so clearly SCP inspired.
Yeah. Why don't you tell the viewers and the listeners, give us a little catch-up on what SCP is if you're not familiar.
Yeah, sure. So SCP, it stands for Search, Contain, Protect. And basically it is a shadowy, it's a fictional writings about a shadowy organization that contains all sorts of like anomalous, nightmarish creatures and just anomalous entities and objects in general.
Yeah.
And things,
If you've ever played the game Control is very heavily inspired by SCP stuff, or what's the other game by that studio with the writer guy that came out last year? Why am I forgetting this? I'll look it up.
This is a game? Oh, Alan Wake.
Alan Wake. There you go. Yeah, Alan Wake. Yeah, Alan Wake is also very sort of SCP inspired. Things like in Control, there's, like a gun that will, change its shape into any kind of gun you want. That's sort of your main gun. And there's like telephones you pick up that you can call anywhere to, or that like when it rings and you pick it up, it teleports you. Lots of stuff where it's like, it's a one thing, it has one specific weirdness about it, which carries over into this Ghost Fixer series, right? I really like the opening, the visual storytelling here, and I love the setting. They do this in both Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. The setting of these little like cute little chibi presenters like talking about they call them ghosts, right? We would sort of, I think colloquially in the West, we would think of these more as SCPs, right? Because the one that they talk about in Chapter 1 is this thing called the Cut All Blade, which is
I think this is just like a copyright or like a kind of rights thing, because SCPs are equally as popular in Japan as they are like outside of Japan. Yeah, in the States, they're immensely popular. There's like this manga called like I think Shortened SCPs that was out a while ago. That was very popular back in the day. Yeah. But anyway, go on. Yeah,
well, I mean, the cool thing is that throughout sort of the start of the chapter and then again at the end, these two kind of cutesy characters do this little, like, I don't know, like talking head TV show type thing, like a TikTok maybe or a YouTube short about like, oh, the Cut All Blade, blah, 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 is this. And they call everything, all these oddities in their world are just called ghosts. That's why it has its unfortunate name of just Ghost Fixers, right? Which is...
a part of me wishes they just had the rights to say SCP, but
well,
yeah.
And I do wonder what the translation is. I wonder what this is called in Japanese, because I wonder if the word directly is ghost. Yokai is, I think, has more of a demon context, but I don't know. I can look that up real quick, but I'll look it up later. Anyways, I like these two characters. They like talk about the Cut All Blade. They're like, oh, it was found here and this happened, and it can cut completely through an entire building when someone dropped it. But yeah, that's sort of set against these two characters whose names I'm going to forget. I know I have it on here, right? The main guy character is Hifumi Kagome. He's sort of our main dude. He works for essentially the SCP Foundation, but he works for, like the Ghost Exterminators or whatever they're called in this thing. And then the other main girl who's introduced here is Moka Kirarazaka, who is like a new recruit into the Ghost Hunters, right? In Chapter 1, they also meet this little girl who you'll see in a little bit. Spoilers for Chapter 1 is the SCP of the chapter. But they meet. I thought the dialogue is really fun in this chapter between the two characters. I think and to be honest, like, I actually think, well, here, let me ask you this. What, if you had to pick like one favorite thing from this Chapter 1 of Ghost Fixers, what do you think your favorite thing about this chapter is, Captain?
It's how badly the main character needed to piss.
Yes, me too. Okay, we agree on this. The most interesting and funny thing about this Chapter 1 is that in most normal things, it would be like, oh yeah, boy meets girl, they're both ghost hunters, they meet the ghost in the elevator, they go down, they get trapped, they fight her, they escape, blah, like that beat for beat is what happens in this Chapter 1. But that is set against the main guy character. As soon as the SCP pulls him in, or the elevator kind of stops right before the SCP pulls him in, really has to use the bathroom. And that is... It's so funny. It's so different. It's so like awkward and real. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's so good.
I absolutely loved it because there were so many like kind of subversions in like the writing here, because you see that the main character in one panel is like sees that there's a little kid and he's like, I hate kids. God damn it. And he's like sweating, and like the elevator breaks down. It stops, and the little kid does like the universal symbol of I really need to pee. And then he grimaces. He like looks at the kid, and he looks like angry. And you're like, why is he angry? He must really hate kids. No, he also just needed to piss so badly, and he's trying to deal with that. And that's why he's grimacing. That's why he's sweating and looking pale in the elevator when people are like, are you okay? It's like, I love the big reveal.
It's so good. And it's also like, we talk about it basically every single new chapter one that hits Weekly Shonen Jump. A lot of stuff's from Weekly Shonen Magazine, a lot of stuff from Jump Plus, and a lot of them are just missing their main character needing to piss. And that's
truly.
In
the piss of it all.
That is the shorthand of they're just missing that one little different element. They just something to put in there that's a twist or that makes it more fun. Because like I said, this, the opening chapter of this is very similar to something like Bleach. I'll bring it up again, right? There's a boy and a girl, they meet, something happens, a monster shows up, the guy has to use his power to fight it off, right? That's kind of the plot of a lot of these kind of monster fighting, ghost fighting, demon fighting, whatever things, right? But this one, it's but the fun thing is that the whole time they're sort of searching and trying to figure out this SCP, this ghost in the basement here, he also really has to pee, and it comes up a lot, and it's really funny.
Yeah, it's great. And I love that at no point, he's reaching his breaking point already. And at no point does the threat truly matter to him over his dignity of not wanting to piss his own pants. Yeah. It's a funny balancing act. It's this character archetype is curmudgeonly, cold, reserved.
I don't need a partner. Yeah.
But also highly competent. And it's that's kind of an edgy archetype, right? Mm-hmm. An edgy, wish fulfillment, power fulfillment archetype. But it's all thrown to the wayside when you have such a human biological function, oh shit moment like this. It makes him goofy. It makes him goofy and competent. Well,
and it just adds an element of...
I love it.
I love it too. It adds an element of fun to the series. That's
and it humanizes them more.
Exactly, yeah. And the series could be way too serious. I mean, the dialogue already, I think, is already fun, and the banter, I think, is good. But it adds an element to be okay, yes, there's these weird, scary things, but the fact that the main character has to pee for half the chapter one is it's letting you know things are going to be a little fun too. Don't worry about it.
I actually think that the panel where he actually pisses is a very satisfying battle.
No, and I was going to say a lot of the visual stuff in this manga is also really good. If you look at, if you're watching the video here, if you look on screen, sort of the reveal of the little girl being the ghost, and has them in her little room, kind of watching over them. I think that's a great page. That's a great panel. And then she's looking down over them. These are really cool visuals.
It's very cool. It's a flashback to Sabrina from Pokemon. It feels like, if you remember that.
Yeah, I didn't until you said that right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then they both sort of start melting. We get the reveal of Kirarazaka's ghost, which is this. They go into it a little bit more in chapter 2, but it's this case that can hold 999 things. You say a number and it spits out whatever it is. I like that her first thought is well, I'll just bring out a 1928 Tommy gun.
I love it.
Which she does, which is funny because it's I like that that's her weapon of choice because that's it's an iconic weapon. It's so iconic. It's I'm not big into guns, but I can recognize that's a Tommy gun without the drum bag. I know that. And it's also cool. But yeah, this is this I think is the page that you were talking about, right? Where he's
I love this.
Sitting on the toilet and she's blasting the walls. She's we just need to, shoot, and the whole thing is the ghost, shoot everything. And she's just blasting away and it's going off around him. Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, that's such
so
a great panel. And he's just blissfully peeing. I have a lot of piss empathy for characters that need to go to the bathroom. I actually start to focus more on their need to go to the bathroom than I do on other things. Because I've been there, bro. I've been in that situation.
I actually have this thing. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. You go ahead.
So I'm a little bit of a tangent, but I have this thing, which is a known, it's 7% of the population or 11% or something has it, where it's if I go into a bookstore, I have to poop every time, without fail.
Wait, what? That's a thing?
This is a real thing. Yeah. Hold on. Let me, it's named after, I think it's named after a Japanese woman. Yeah. It's called Mariko Aoki phenomenon.
That's insane.
There's a Google page for it. Is a Japanese expression referring to a sudden urge to defecate that is felt upon entering bookstores. And I thought I was just weird. This is one of those things that I've had since I my whole life, since I can remember. I go into a bookstore. I would go into Barnes and Noble or Half Price Books with my family. I would go I could tell you what every half-price bookstore bathroom looks like. Like I know what the bathroom of every bookstore looks like because I go to a bookstore and it's like, okay, I gotta poop now. Like,
What if
it
you
just
enter
happens.
like a personal library of a well-studied person?
That's a good question. I don't have any friends rich enough to have that many books, so
Yeah, we should test this. We should test this
it also
SCP behavior
okay.
you have going
It
on.
also doesn't happen. I will say, if you've ever been to, there's a Kinokuniya in town here, which is like
Yeah.
Japanese bookstore. But the fact that when you walk in there, there's also like figures and snacks and some other stuff, and it isn't like floor to ceiling books. Something about that doesn't trigger it, or like didn't. I'm trying to remember. I think it like didn't trigger it until I walked back into the bookstore area, but.
But okay, but when you went to Japan, you went to a lot of bookstores. I'm assuming it was
Yes.
like you started, you needed to poop, and you did.
So
And
it
does
so
it
if
happen every single one though?
So, okay, if it was a closed bookstore, yes. A couple of times I would go into bookstores, they were open, sort of like in a mall, or
Yeah.
like two of them I went to were sort of in a mall and kind of like open. You could walk through them. That didn't trigger it. But the one time I went into one that was like it was like, I don't know, 5 floors, 6 floors. I went to that. I think by the time I got to like the second floor looking up stuff, I was like, yep, gotta poop. Where's the bathroom?
Well, it's a good place to do it.
Yeah.
Japan,
And
that is.
Yeah, and that, like I said, that is a true observed phenomenon, the Mariko Aoki phenomenon. So like
That's so wild.
it has like,
dude.
yeah, it has like it's not a medical thing, but it's like it has like a term around it. So I sympathize with that. I was also going to say, I don't know if you've ever like been out late at night with your friends in high school, whatever, like playing tag or like hide and seek or something, right? Where it's like there's like that tension of like someone's looking for you and your heartbeat kind of races in your fight or flight. When my fight or flight gets like triggered, it's like I also have to pee. It's like I definitely, if I play hide or seek, I like hide and I immediately have to pee because there's just there's some kind of fight or flight like tension thing going on. So yeah. Anyways, all of that to
Dude,
say,
Mariko knows about it. Is she still alive? We should hit her up. Get her on the pod.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Keep this tangent in, by the way, because this is like elucidating. I love this.
Yeah, no, this is good. But anyway,
this is peak podcasting.
back to Ghost Fixers. Yeah, I love the Tommy gun. I love her blasting it. And something else I really like, as you mentioned at the start, there are these two characters that talk about these ghosts kind of in a meta way, like in a showy way. They talk about this thing called what's it called, like the one cut blade or something like that.
Right.
And the cool thing is at the very end here, you get the reveal that, the main character possesses this like little looking like toy sword, or maybe it's just a small sword. It's hard to tell. And the girl like has blasted this ghost and the bullets aren't doing anything. She's not dying. So, and he uses his one cut blade, and cuts through, the cut all blade. Sorry, that's called the cut all blade. And it's a little like Japanese. I don't remember what the dagger version of of like a katana is called. That has a name.
Oh,
like
yeah.
It's like the
I don't
Wazakashi
remember.
or something. I don't remember. But
I
has like
think you're right.
I think it's the Wazakashi. I don't remember. Get in the comments if we're wrong on that. But yeah,
I do like that. It's like there's so much going on in this chapter that like I missed this the first time around. But the beginning flashback has someone telling him to run away from it all, and he is running.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, he's like running away. I don't know how to do that. So clearly something traumatic happened in his childhood, but
for sure,
it also made him stand up to everything later on in life in maybe like a foolhardy, stubborn way. You know what I mean? Interesting. I didn't even catch that till I reread it just now.
Yeah, well, and that intro is also good because I like that we just get sort of 2 or 3 pages of like the dialogue at the start is all sort of world building and setup, like 7 years ago. Throughout the whole of Mikuragaoka, a strange phenomenon occurred, blah blah blah, and then in the back we're sort of watching the main character sort of like something happened, it fell out of the thing, he's running away, someone tells him to run, like you were saying. Yeah, it's all very good storytelling, visually, writing, translation, all of it. Like I just really, really like this series so far.
Truly, I don't have any issues with chapter 1. I like have 2 minor gripes. One is the Ghost Chasers or Ghost Fixers. Terrible name.
Ghost Fixer's not a great name, no. But
I don't even like calling them ghosts. Call them like anomalies or something. But that doesn't matter. It's such a minor gripe. The only other minor gripe is I wish these characters were adults.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially after reading chapter 2. They go to, you want to guess middle school or high school for these characters?
Are they in middle school?
These are middle schoolers. These are second year middle schoolers, which means that they are, I think that's like 12 or something, or 13 maybe. Yeah, which I was like, okay, like, all right, would like the anime pass on that? But yeah, for sure, this series I think absolutely works as well, if not better. Of these are just adults, right? Like,
yeah. But that's okay.
Chapter 1, especially, I would say by itself works. There are some funny moments in chapter 2 that have to go with them. Like, she's like, "Oh, let's walk to school together," and he just like jumps off his balcony to not do it, and it's really funny. It's really funny though. So like, there's some funny moments, but yeah, it totally doesn't need to be a school thing. But I will say, if you check out chapter 2, there are listeners and Gautam. There's some things in there that I think makes it up just enough to make it a little bit more interesting than just, oh, it's another school thing. Like, I'll give you just one example without like minor spoilers, but for example, their school, because it's in the middle of this sort of like ghost-ridden town, right, is like only 4 people. So there's not like, or at least their class, right, like their second year middle school class. So there's not like 30 extras everywhere. It's like, nope, it's like this guy, 3 other people, and the new girl and the teacher, and like that's it. So
okay, that's a fun premise.
Yeah, well, and I like that too, because it's like, yeah, you don't need extra characters. Like, cut them all out. These are the important ones, and the other people are just literally not here. And it makes sense because it's a haunted town. So it definitely does some interesting stuff to get around feeling kind of typical. But yeah, no, these are 12-year-olds apparently. So
what? That's so crazy. But either way, I thought this was such a strong chapter 1 that I just can't wait to read more. I don't understand what's up with that. I'm assuming that's his SCP, like his weapon.
I would, or
anime girl mask.
Absolutely, I assume we're gonna meet a lot of weirdos with like one weird thing about them, and this is like their boss or whatever. It's like, he's just wearing this like princess mask. At first, I thought that was his head, and I was like, oh, that's really weird. And then it's like, oh no, it's a mask. Okay.
Yeah. What a creepy little mask. Either way, looking forward to more. I'm gonna go read chapter 2 after this, but I wanted to give you my thoughts on chapter 1 raw because I liked it so much.
I also really like this series.
Yeah.
Cool.
The rest are good too, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, that being said, this being our favorite, and to lead off, the other 2 I also think are really good. So, anything else on Ghost Fixers, Gautam?
Nope.
Cool.
Let's move on.
Let's move on to the next one. The next one is a little bit different, a little bit darker and grungier, I would say. This series is called Ankoku DELTA. This is by a new mangaka, essentially, by a manga called Alpa, A-L-P-A, the creator of, I think, 2 one-shots. One is called Death Salmon Hunter, and the other is Composter Funeral. And those both sound a little grungy. The closest thing I think I can compare this to is probably if you are familiar with Doro Hedoro or Dai
I was going to say the same shit, dude. Yeah. Exactly. It is very similar.
Yeah, super similar to those 2 series, I would say. I can't remember that author's name, but someone can remind me in the comments. But yeah, so this is very sort of dark, grungy, right? The series essentially starts with like a dad abusing his son, and we get this view. There's this alternate world where these weird people, right? This guy has like a weird like metal dog face thing, and his kind of cute anime girl sidekick. And they do this thing where they are like draining the negative energy from people in the real world to use as kind of a power source or as a bartering tool, kind of as a monetary, like oil maybe is not the right comparison, but kind of like something like oil, right? Where it's like, that's really valuable and it uses as an energy source, that kind of thing. And they drain the humans there. And it, when they do that, from what I understand, I think it kills the people in the real world. So
yeah.
That's kind of the whole setup of the 2 worlds that are happening. And then in a comparison, another comparison, I've read, I don't know, maybe 60 or 70 chapters of Dorohedoro. And Dorohedoro has this too, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, there's like just ramen shops in this weird, dirty, sci-fi place. And here it's like, oh yeah, there's just weird people walking around, lots of strange characters in a strange world, and they go and, they trade in this power that they stole. So it's very kind of capitalistic, Like
it's like Monsters Inc. Like
yeah,
where
that's
they
actually
scare
a
the
pretty good
kids.
comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good comparison. If the kids died,
Yeah, if the kids
when they
died,
drain them
exactly.
of scare juice or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, energy drain from humans sustain the city of Delta, right? The city's called Delta, so Ankoku Delta. People of Delta value life force energy over all else. The currency used for goods and services and transactions here. So you drain humans in the real world of negative energy, you get their energy that is translated into currency and value. But yeah, so the kind of cool, I guess, interesting twist on this is okay. You've got these two worlds. The next thing that happens is the main character like climbs into a skin suit, and that lets her walk through a portal that takes her to the real world. And this is kind of at the behest of her partner, who's like, well, if people aren't feeling negative emotions for us to drain, why don't you go up to, go to the real world and cause some negative emotions to happen and then, come back and drain them or whatever. So she goes and she meets the kid who she kind of inadvertently saved in the start. They kind of bond. There's a lot of panels I couldn't post here because she is essentially partially naked in this skin suit for a lot of it. So just to not get demonetized on YouTube, you can go and check that out. Both.
It is wild, actually, because it is like you said, it's dark and grungy, but it's so like the main character is so irreverent and goofy.
She's so goofy, yeah.
And she gets like molested, but her skin suit gets molested, and this is like a positive outcome for her because she's creating negative energy in these people who are trying to molest her. And yeah, I don't know. It's like by all means, that shouldn't work. It shouldn't, but it does. It's just a fun read, even though the subject matter is fucking dark.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like you said, they both kind of get captured, right? There's molesting and some other stuff happening, and they're gonna like harvest their organs and stuff. But she sort of climbs out of her skin suit, which lets her go back into the I guess maybe
Delta world or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if it works to how that skin suit is like inside is her, but she's still in Delta. I don't know. I think that's how it works because she is essentially invisible to these guys, right? And she drains all three of them, or four of them. Again, this is not, I would say, as visually cool or interesting as the first one, but there's still some good stuff in here for this chapter one. I like this panel on the upper left here, where you've got the MC on the right, and then it's kind of a split panel showing the real life on the left. I hope we get more stuff like that, where it's like, here's what's going on one side, here's on the other side, kind of split through a panel.
I like that too. I also like the character design. Like, I think the human characters look like Fujimoto drew. I was going
to say this bottom left panel looks like Fujimoto drew it, and I wonder if this guy was an old assistant because visually a lot of the of the human characters look very Fujimoto like. I agree.
But I really like the Delta designs of like they all look unique and fun. Especially Dog Cop. I like
yeah,
him.
they're all interesting. Yeah, Dog Cop shows up. Where is he? He's here. But yeah.
Oh, I just noticed that there is the Greek alphabet Delta symbol in the city picture. Oh, that's kind of cool. Like that, it's just a triangle.
It's a triangle, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see. I do wonder because here it is again on this like larger shot of the. So I wonder if there's some kind of big delta or triangle or pyramid or something in the middle.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, but there are I think 3 chapters of this. I think the third chapter was maybe today or yesterday, and this one has a lot of cool stuff going on. Also, in its expanded chapters, there's a little bit more corporate espionage kind of plays into it of people trying to figure out of like the Delta people trying to create more negative human emotions and the humans trying to be like, oh, how can we use Delta to our own profits? And those people playing against each other. And Anko is the main character is kind of separated from that right now. But I will assume that they will intersect eventually. So yeah, I mean, this one is still really good. I really enjoyed it. I'm like definitely going to keep up with both of these first 2 ones for sure. Yeah,
a part of me wishes that like the antagonists who are trying to crush Delta or destroy Delta were more not clear-cut bad guys, right? Because you see their shady faces, and then you see all the dead cops, and you're like, okay, these are bad guys. But I think I would have preferred some kind of ambiguity there, because what Delta is doing isn't good either, right? So it's like,
yeah,
I think more grayness is kind of my preference there, but both ways work, you know?
Yeah, and I do wonder because, I mean, if I told you, hey, there's an alternate dimension and anyone who feels negative emotions can be instantly killed by an entire like race or group of separate people who we have no control over and can't reach, and you said, well, I'm going to stop that from happening, you would not be like, oh, you're the bad guys.
Yeah, exactly.
So
It's
I
like,
do wonder if these are like, maybe these guys are going too far, killing the cops or whatever, but maybe it's like, well, you should probably stop people from randomly dying from having negative emotions. So I don't know.
I think the author clearly wants us to see them as bad guys with how they're portrayed, like all shady like, and the cops. But like, I agree with you in that. I think like if you didn't like put all this shit, like if you just had two guys in a room talking about this, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's reasonable. That's reasonable that they want to stop this from going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But good first chapter again.
Yeah, another good first chapter. I think all three of these chapters have been pretty interesting. Chapter 2 and 3 definitely keep things going in an interesting direction. But yeah, I like this one too. But
I liked it a lot too, man. I'd say it's the least interesting out of 3 very interesting manga.
This is definitely feels and I think it is appropriate. This feels the most. This feels the most like a new author because it essentially is a new author, right?
Right.
This feels like the least practiced, the least refined of the 3. But I think the fact that we're still kind of enjoying it and that it's still good, it still has good, interesting ideas, I think says something, right? I mean, the first couple of chapters of like Fire Punch by Fujimoto, right? Like I think those are pretty rough at times and pretty weird and do some, those are not my favorite chapters that Fujimoto's ever written. I don't think they're his best, but
I thought this was good.
They're good enough, right? And I think this is also good. So
this is a solid chapter. I just think the other 2 were so far beyond my expectations of what I normally expect of manga's first chapters that this ended up being the worst of the lot, even though it was
still really good.
It was still really good. Yeah,
still good enough, I think, to keep me interested to keep reading, and probably you too, hopefully.
Agreed. Yeah.
Cool. So let's move on to the last one. This is This is called The Pool. This is by Sakurai Gamon, who you might know for creating Ajin, Demi-Human. And this has 2 chapters out. This one, unfortunately, is not on any legal paid readable areas, but if you are familiar with the decks, you can find it on the high seas there. Yeah, so Sakurai Gamon, from what I understand, I think is more of the brains behind Ajin than the other author whose name is escaping me now. But this one especially stunned me. I mean, obviously, this is the best art of these 3 by like a huge mile. And this is a sort of the style of this is a very realistic leaning seinen kind of. And fair warning for this one. The violence and the blood is a little bit scarier, more intense, more real in this one. So if that bothers you, you can skip ahead. But yeah, this is very real. This feels very like Alien inspired, like Alien, The Thing, those sort of like 70s, 80s horror movies where it's very kind of grungy, dirty sci-fi is again kind of what this is. So,
and I think it's like it takes the perfect inspiration from Alien, where it's like you're stuck in a room with all these people, but people are hiding shit from each other. And
The Thing especially is like that. So
this happens with other. I have. Amazing movie.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Amazing movie. Had one bad part, which was the ending. Not the ending, but like the scene before the ending.
But I don't remember it, but yeah.
It was just some goofy stuff. Anyway, I think like the distrust between and kind of dislike between some characters is far more compelling. It adds like this element of tension that builds on itself.
And it's a mature tension, right? It's not just there's a ghost and there's 2 12-year-olds that are going to fight it off. It's like these are adults. They have, families, or there's money or there's safety or something involved. It feels very adult in like the appropriate mature kind of way. And
they're like, all those things plus the egos involved. It's like it's a balancing act, and I love it. And I think what did you think of? You read 2 chapters, right?
Yeah, I read both the chapters.
Me too.
Chapter 2, I think, gets into it a little. It gets into sort of the meat of the story a little bit more. One is very introductory. There's like not a whole lot of dialogue in chapter 1. There's a lot of visual storytelling, which again is totally my jam.
I was gonna say this is the ballsiest chapter of the lot. I was going to say that until I read Ghost Chasers, and I think that's a little ballsier. But this is like the second ballsiest chapters of the lot because they didn't show the monster at all.
Yeah, barely. I think you've like barely glimpsed him. I think I didn't grab the. There's maybe another panel that shows him like right before this or after this, but
yeah, it's like a silhouette, the black silhouette.
Yeah, barely shown, and I don't even think it's shown in chapter 2, or like maybe it's barely shown at the very end, right? Like.
Yeah, it's like you see like midway through chapter 2, you see a silhouette of the creature, but not really anything.
I dig that. This is very and something. I mean, again, sort of the comparison to those kind of Alien, Dune, or not Dune, The Thing type, 70s, 80s, very kind of analog sci-fi is maybe what I'd talk it is like, this guy's running away and this is a sci-fi world, but he has to like climb a ladder. At the top of the ladder is like a normal fan. And then he like opens like a sliding door thing to like look through and he like sees a ship. He has to hold out like a flare, like all of these things, like this could be our world, right? Like all of these things exist in our world and are very real. But there is also like, advanced weaponry and weird creatures and all that stuff. But yeah, I did really like this chapter 1 and especially the art. I mean, like the main character is this like short-haired, like, I don't know if they call her captain or chief or whatever, but like super interesting.
Yeah, the chick is badass. She's awesome.
Like super interesting. Like visually, all these characters are cool. And like you mentioned, the sort of egos clashing between her, like 3 other group members are funny. There's like the hotshot guy and kind of the tech dude and the older, like brute guy.
Old crazy guy.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about like the pool here that we're talking about and stuff like Alien and The Thing is they sort of live or die. And the things we've all listed, I think, thrive on the fact that they're these like sort of small, like, what's the word? Where it's like a group of people like in the cast, like, I'll have to look it up. Nope. That is the movie, The Group. I'm losing my words today.
Like a small cast of people?
Yeah, but there's a specific word that means like it's a where there's not like a leading person, it's like an ensemble cast. That's ensemble cast. Yes. These series live or die on their sort of ensemble casts all working and jiving together. And in something like Alien and The Thing, it's the same. They both follow the same path. And I wonder if the pool is going to follow the same path. I mean, movies are like 30 and 40 years old now. So I'm going to say spoilers. If you haven't seen Alien or The Thing, go watch those and then come back to the podcast. Those are awesome movies. But they both kind of follow this. You start out with a big ensemble. They all kind of know each other. They're all familiar. They all work together. An alien shows up and then they all die off slowly. And then until there was only one or two.
The final girl. That's another trope. The final girl.
Again, the final girl. Yeah. So and the fact that I feel the inspiration of the pool coming from those series, I wonder if we're going to get a similar thing where it's like, we like these characters, even if they're kind of, hateable, like the ego guy or whatever. It's like, well, yeah, but maybe he sacrifices himself to save, like, what was the guy in Aliens, right? There's like the dude who's the hotshot, but he sacrifices himself for the people at the end and all that. So,
it seems like this type of group where like they all shit talk each other, but they don't shit talk the leader, right?
Yeah.
Very clearly they did not shit talk the leader. And yeah, I think that reflects that despite their grievances with each other, they are still an elite squad of like hitters.
Yeah, and I'll be really interested when we get more chapters of this because again, these first 2 chapters, not a whole lot of action. I don't think anyone fired a gun. Like it's a lot of talking and setup and atmosphere building, which I like a lot. And I am wondering like when we get into the action or the combat or whatever, like what is that going to look like? How's it going to go? But I mean, these first 2 chapters to me built a lot of good tension already. Like if it breaks loose in chapter 3, like it's there. I'm wound up from the story already. So
yeah, no, this is great. This is like the start of any of the movies we talked about. It gives me the same vibes, and I like the tension I feel when I read it. It's very compelling. I also love this panel that we're looking at where she sees this alien deer and ready to take the shot. It runs off, and then she's like, "Okay, I'll clear." Like.
Well, and there's something I really like on this page on the right, and this is like details like this, if you're paying attention to a really good manga, are things
Their
that really stand
ODST
out.
gear, where their drop gear or whatever.
Well, their
The
gear,
little
but also
hovercraft.
like look at the middle panel here and like the way that each of them lands, right?
Yeah.
Like the big guy like is like bracing himself, like holding his whole weight on his impact. The sort of egotistical blonde guy in the back is kind of lithely landing. The other guy looks like he sort of maybe didn't have a good landing. His legs are still kind of flying up in the air. And then the chief is sort of like a regular kind of like gun close to the chest, 3 point, two legs on the ground, bent knees, like, but not bent as far as a big guy. It's just like you're telling me actually a lot about these characters in the way that they land after jumping out of an airship. And
That's a very
like,
good point.
That's like
you can even tell.
so cool.
You can even tell that the tech dude is the last one to clear his corner, right? Because he's the
on the
least
next
ready
panel.
after landing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and like you said, in the next panel in the upper left, the three sort of larger men,
Yeah.
or I guess the two larger men and the chief already have their guns up, and the tech guy, like you said, who's kind of shown to maybe be the most green, the most new, his gun isn't raised yet. He's still stumbling from falling. So yeah, those two panels tell you like a lot that you need to know about the characters, and it shows what kinds of weapons they're holding. The kind of blonde ego guy has like more of a a sniper rifle. The chief and the other guy have kind of larger guns. It's you're building a personality through two panels in like showing stuff, and then again, like you said, showing their faces here, looking down their guns. Right, the blonde guy has a little bit of a smile on his face. We sort of don't see the face of the big guy, and the other guy.
The big guy has the infinite stare that they commented on, where he has a weird look in his. Yeah, he has the crazy person stare.
And then the tech guy, we get a sort of clear because he's like unsure. His eyes are a little like closed, like he's like not working. Like again, just 2 pages of a manga, and I like understand these 4 characters like not completely, but pretty well. Like this is amazing visual storytelling right here.
I also really liked that it shows the tech guy's competencies later too, like where the chief like asks him, they're trying to break down a door in chapter
2, right? Yeah,
like the monsters, and they're like, will that door hold? And the guy's like, due to the oxidation, this won't hold. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Like his competencies don't lie in the gunmanship of it all, but getting everything else to work. That's his job. Yeah.
So I mean, the more we talk about it, I might have to go back and say, like, you might be right. This one might be my favorite. I don't know. I really liked both of them. But yeah, this again, like, very sort of little dialogue in this first chapter. They tell the big guy, right? They're like, hey, keep up, TA. Like he's like, we're being watched. He's like, by what? And he just says, the forest, with that 1,000-yard stare. So clear. Yeah. There's, and again, you mentioned it's cool that there's this weird deer thing that shows up. And the other thing that's cool about this like single panel showing this weird deer is that tells us a lot about the world, right? Again, this author is using, 1 page, 2 or 3 panels to tell us, hey, the trees look normal. The world looks like you're used to. And kind of in the same way that he showed us, hey, the shaft that guy climbed up in the door and the flare, those things are normal. But the animals are not. And the tech is not. Like we're seeing
I don't think they are on Earth.
No. For sure it's not Earth.
Right?
But,
like they said somewhere. I was wondering if it was like a mutated Earth. But I think they're on a different planet.
It could be, but I think it's probably a different planet. I think it's probably not an Earth adjacent thing. I think it's more of just a the sort of less information. I don't know, like the less information you can give to the reader while still building the most like environment, the most like knowledge about the world. And I think when you present them with something they're familiar with, they can instantly understand sort of everything, right? Like I always complain about like Tokyo Ghoul or Bleach or whatever, where it's just like a high school kid in Tokyo. The fact that the first, couple of pages of those probably show you like, hey, we're in, a city in Japan. If I say that, or if I say we're in Tokyo, that tells me like tons and tons of information about the environment. But in a series like this, where you're not in somewhere that you can so easily just say like, it's an alien forest, or it's a concrete bunker where they're mining or whatever. You have to sort of reveal the environment in a different way. And this author is super good and super smart about it, right? Showing you a familiar forest with an unfamiliar creature. And I think that's just, again, in a very few panels, tells you a lot about the environment that they're in.
It looks like we have another Parasite one too, on top of all that. Like, I completely agree. I think this
Could be,
author
yeah.
does a lot of show don't tell, and I feel like every piece of dialogue has been relevant. Relevant as in it has contributed to the story,
Yeah.
uh, or character dynamics in such a way where I feel like there is nothing that feels fillery or floaty or out of place.
Yeah, it feels very intentional. There's a lot of
Intentional,
intention in this
exactly.
chapter
Intentionality,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of intention of when they do or don't have dialogue or show a panel or show a thing. Yeah, and again, sorry, violence on screen, but yeah, that's like, and it's not a very long chapter one. Or at least it doesn't feel very long because there's again like, a lot of not a whole lot to read. It's only about 30 pages long. But yeah, it's I did really like this one. I'm really interested. This was one I think that probably has because it's coming from an author of an already well established series that had a good anime adaptation that people liked. I think people are going to be into this. I wish that there was a place that I could read it in the West. Because yeah, again, the art in this is stunning. Like, and the art in Najin was also really, really good. This side of realistic style.
They need an official for this because I
Yeah.
swear to God, the West will appreciate this. Like, this is heavily inspired by the two greatest horror flicks of all time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is it's a lot harder. I don't know if do we get any official sort of digitally published like seinen, like sort of that hyper violent
really.
erotic. Like we really don't really get those, unfortunately, digitally.
I don't think there's a medium for it, really. I think publishers just like Shonen Jump does its thing, but like publishers have to take a risk to license everything.
Yeah. And we do, I think, get we do sometimes get hard versions of series like this published eventually, but that's usually not, again, like you mentioned, it's not from Kadokawa or Shueisha on Shonen Jump or Weekly Weekly Shonen Magazine. Those are the two like sort of big digital publishers, and they're not really interested in this, right? This is different from those. This is more niche but very cool.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, cool. That anything else about those three cool sci-fi things?
No, man, they were all fucking great. If Weekly Shonen Jump is looking for main magazine mainstays, like get some of these authors after they're done with their works. Like,
yeah, seriously, I can't. Yeah,
they know what's up.
It's weird to me that like, oh, the author of Summertime Render, which is like one of the biggest kind of silent hits of anime from last year, doesn't get a shot in the main magazine, and we have fucking shit like Two on Ice or whatever in the Shonen Jump. Like, I don't know.
Like this I feel like Ghost Chasers especially, all of them honestly, were better than so many chapter ones that we went over.
Yes, absolutely.
Like for the main magazine.
Like I think Ghost Chasers is miles above Shadow Eliminators, which both have bad names and they're both very similar type of premise. And like I don't know. I will always be exasperated.
Oh wait, sorry, it's Ghost Fixers. I keep calling it Ghost Chasers.
Yeah, Ghost Fixers, Shadow Eliminators, Bleach. It's all the same story. I was looking for that other series. I think we talked about chapter 1. God, how long ago was it now? Like Shoujo Null is another kind of like hyper violent thing that came out.
Yeah, I was going to mention it, but I wanted to forget about it. What a bad comic.
I mean, I understand why some people like series like that, but
I'm not even going to walk the middle of the line. That thing sucked.
Yeah. Oh, there was another one. I don't know if you saw this. There was one called The World of SKK Girls.
Is it the magical girl one that was like a horror?
No, I don't think it was Magical Girls. It's like cute girls, post-apocalypse, like sci-fi. There's like monsters and stuff, and they're trying to keep them. Like that one came out also like maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago. Like it's also really good. I'm looking for that one with a baby who I can't remember.
Oh yeah. Fuck. Yeah, I'm forgetting what it's called.
What is it called? Astro Baby by Shiro Moria. I think if you're looking for some sci-fi series, final recommendation list, Astro Baby by Shiro Moria. That is on that's on Manga Plus. You can read that. Ghost Fixers by Yasuki Tanaka. That's the first thing we talked about. 2 chapters out. That is also on Manga Plus. Ankoku Delta by Alpa. Also on Manga Plus. And then The Pool by Sakurai Gamon. That is on the High Seas. You can check out the decks, I think, if you want to read that one. Those are all, I'm super impressed by the start of the year and sci-fi manga. Like it's really, really good.
Jesus, Astro Baby is a terrible name. I wish that Ghost Fixers, and Astro Baby had better names. Just because I don't want that to hold them back. Because they're so good. They're so good.
They need every person who translates and names a series needs to look at Full Metal Alchemist and be like, can I make a title this good? And like,
exactly.
Aim for that. Shoot for that star. Shoot for that moon. If you miss, maybe you'll land among the stars. Because
exactly.
Ghost Fixers, not a great name. Astro Baby is interesting in that you go, oh, huh, Star Baby, huh. But like, they're not great titles.
They're just not great. But
is a cool title.
That is a cool title.
Ankoku DELTA, I think, is also a decent title because it doesn't really have any context to it. But
I really think Ghost Fixers is so, like, the first chapter was so good that the title stands out more because it's like the one bad part about it. Right?
I agree. It is, the title does not stand up to how good chapter 1 is.
It was a very good chapter.
You should definitely go read chapter 2 and tell me how you feel about it because I still liked it even though it does more schools. Cool.
Oh I'm down for that.
Cool. Anything else? If not, we'll jump right into the news real quick.
Let's hit it.
Cool. We got another trailer for Dan to Dan. Speaking of sci-fi SCP type things, another Dan to Dan trailer in English. The English version of Dan to Dan will be on Netflix. Thank God. This is another SCP fantasy.
I guess it is. I just never thought of it that way. It's weird. Dan to Dan, it has no category in my brain. It goes
more places than just sort of SCP sci-fi fantasy.
It goes everywhere. It
goes aliens. It also goes hard fantasy, and it goes everywhere.
If I bucket manga, and I bucket manga in my brain. Dan to Dan has its own bucket, and it can just stay there forever because I can't bucket it. It's just it's so unique.
It is genre bending in the best way. So that's easily one of our best things. I put all the sci-fi news at the top. So Terraformars, which is a manga that I think went on hiatus, I don't know how long, is coming back. That's something I hear a lot of people talk about. I don't know if it's actually good or not. I hear a lot of Terraformars. Did you?
I read it until there was no more. I don't know. It was okay.
That's kind of what I hear from most people. It's sort of like interesting premise, like interesting plot, and it kind of like doesn't always land, but.
I feel like the cockroaches are a little racist, design-wise.
Well, I need to Google this now.
Yeah.
That's a little racist. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's not good. I don't like that at all. Jesus. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's coming back. So
if we put aside that whole box of worms over there, I think the series is interesting. There's a lot of memorable characters fighting these roaches, and a lot of memorable characters and likable characters also just fucking die brutally. And
I've heard it be compared to Attack on Titan. I don't know how true that is, but
in terms of brutality and how characters die, yes. In terms of storytelling, absolutely not. Think of it as like a fun series that is very gruesome.
Okay, I might check it out. We'll see. We got, Deadman Wonderland creator duo Kataoka Jinsei and Kondo Kazuma are going to start a new horror manga adapting Higashimai's light novel series. The Higashimai light novel series. So,
have you read or watched Deadman Wonderland?
I think I watched season 1 of the anime. I'm pretty sure I watched this anime, and I remember absolutely hating the end. Yeah. I've seen at least the first season of this anime. It was super interesting episode 1 or 2, and then it floundered and failed until the end, and I hated it by the end.
Yeah, I think it did anime original stuff. I read the manga, and it also wasn't that good. Okay. So
I have also heard that from a lot of people. So
yeah. So I guess in both ways it didn't go super well, but it had a good premise, right? So
it seems super interesting, of a good premise. So, and hey, I don't think if they're adapting a light novel, maybe that's the art in Deadman Wonderland, from what I've seen, is generally been really good. So, all right, let's see. Next up in the news, let's try not to get too sidetracked by this one because we could talk an entire episode of this. Shueisha is launching something called DI DEAI Books, which is an AI manga recommendation service. The librarian Ayahara Pitari, who is designed by Yokoyari Mengo, who is the artist of Oshinoko, will help you find new manga to read from over 5,000 works, and this launches April 25th. AI manga recommendation. Gautam, give me your thoughts.
I actually like that. That's a good use for AI. I don't know how the algorithm works or how it's going to recommend shit, but if it's useful, it's useful, and if it's not, it's not. I don't think AI is ultimately evil, so I don't have like a hot take on this. I think it sounds cool.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think this is a good use, and honestly, stuff very similar to this has been in existence for like years. Things where it recommends like, oh, like Netflix has had a people who watched and liked this also like this. Like that's probably the same, a very similar type of back end to what this is going to be. I am curious how this AI, if this AI will be better than just a simple, like, going on Mal and being like, oh, people who liked, like people who liked Ajin also like this, Attack on Titan and, Terraform Mars or whatever. Like, can it be better than that? Because there's a lot of stuff. I mean,
I don't think so. I think that's impossible.
I'd be interested to see. Yeah, I'd be interested to see if this is the kind of thing where I can say, hi, I really like anything that is character driven or prioritizes character over plot. Can you give me a series that do that? And then can it pull something as broad as like, Full Metal Alchemist on one hand, and then I'm trying to think of like what's on the other end. Like, can it pull, like Full Metal Alchemist and Oshinoko and like Die Dark, or something like that, or hey, I like zany. I like zany, funny action. So is it just going to give me like One Piece? Will it also give me like, what was that wheelchair chain? Was it wheelchair?
Oh yeah. God, yeah.
Attack,
what?
Wheelchair Attack Man? What was that? Tank chair. That's what it's called. Yeah, like,
we got there.
Yeah, it took us a little bit when we got there. Like, if I tell it I like zany, funny action, can it pull me One Piece and Tank Chair and recommend both of those? Or is it going to give me the generic, high level, like, well, these are the zany action things that everyone likes?
I don't know if it's possible for it to do it like a human. Like, an example is the Delta thing that we read. The Delta manga and Dorohedoro, would it make that comparison?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's both dark, funny, and esoteric and weird, and like, but it's hard for a robot to understand vibes, I guess, is how I think about it in my brain. We'll see.
So if you want manga recommendations, keep listening to us. We clearly are better than AI. So that's where we've arrived here. Let's see what else.
But if the AI takes over, we don't agree with those statements.
Yeah, I'll be curious. When this launches, maybe we do an episode that's just a stream where we just ask her for recommendations and see how good it is.
Yeah, that sounds tight. That sounds fun.
Might do something like that. I'll mark it down. Let's see. On the news, High Dive is which is one of the, I guess the second place anime only streaming site to Crunchyroll. Because Crunchyroll absorbed a bunch of other stuff. High Dive is increasing its price from $4.99 to $5.99. Not a big deal, I don't think, for most people.
Yeah, it seems like so reasonable compared to other streaming services.
Yeah, I mean, 5 years ago I paid $10 for Netflix, and now if I want the same thing, I have to pay $25.
Jesus, fuck. Okay, yeah, that's expensive.
Yeah, let's see. Volume 1 of Juo to Yakuso, Beast King and Medicinal Herb by Tatsukazu Gonda is on the 4th reprint, so that's really big. I don't think we ever actually talked about that on the podcast. I went back and looked.
We did. We definitely did.
What episode? I looked back. Maybe it was farther back than I thought. I went through our last 20 episodes. I was like, which episode was that?
Surely we talked about.
I thought we did. I'll find it. Hey, if you're watching this and you want to hear more about this Beast and the Medicinal Herb, which is a really good series, we talked about chapter 1 of it sometime last year, and I don't remember when. So just go listen to all those episodes, and you'll find it.
Now I'm not remembering if we talked about it in the pod or just outside of it. But yeah.
I think it might have been outside of it because I don't know. Let's see. So the series that I know that I've recommended to you and I've talked briefly about on the podcast before, J.K. Haru is a sex worker in another world. Creator Hiratori is going to start a new novel titled J.K. Haru is a Sex Worker in Another World - Autumn, which is essentially what I assume is the next part of the story.
Just another season of sex work.
Yeah, but to be honest, this is a really, really good series. Again, this is one of those things.
No, I hear that. I hear that.
One of those things where I say, hey, can you suggest to me, Mrs. AI, a very character-focused story that can they pull, Full Metal Alchemist and J.K. Haru as a sex worker? Because I think those are both really character-focused, and they're both really good. And I can guarantee you it probably won't be able to do that. Let's see. Land of the Lustrous, that's Hoseki no Kuni by Haruko Ishikawa, is going to end in Monthly Afternoon, issue 6. That is out on April 2024. So the end of that series is coming up just a couple of days now.
Oh, I didn't know that was still going.
It took a bunch of breaks. I think it's only had maybe like 3 or 4 chapters in the last year, maybe a couple more than that. But that's an anime that I think is amazing. That I think will prove to you that 3D anime can work. I think Hoseki no Kuni
put Studio Orange on the map.
It's only Studio Orange, right? Like everything I can suggest to you that is 3D anime is Hoseki no Kuni, Beastars, Trigun, the new Trigun. What was it called? Trigun Stampede. Yeah, those 3. Those are all Studio
and whoever
Orange.
did that Lupin the Third movie.
Oh yeah, I wonder who did that. Did Studio Orange do that? I don't think they did.
I don't know.
They might have done parts of it, but
it was insanely well animated.
That is really well animated. Cool. Yomi no Sogai, 2.3 million copies in circulation. Round of applause for the
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And Dogs Red, the series Dogs Red did 50K for volume 1 in 8 weeks. Again, that's excellent. That's better than almost any premiere, again, in the main Weekly Shonen Jump thing. I don't think anything has ever premiered at 50K since like Ruri Dragon.
Hey, who knew people like complex characters?
Yeah, and people really liked Golden Kamui, which is a fantastic series, and the author comes back and still goofy and interesting. So yeah, I'm still reading Dogs Red every week. I still love it. I still think it's good.
I'm a few behind, but I love it too. It's very good.
Yeah, really good. That one and Rugby Rumble, I'm still sticking with. Cool.
Nice.
I think that's it for news. So let's get on. Let's finish up with one more thing. I will go first. I'm going to bring another chapter 1 because I didn't think we could fit this in. I wasn't sure. This, I think, premiered last week, and I thought it was so excellent, so good.
It looks gorgeous. Wow.
Yes, if you didn't read this, you need to go read this because I think it's really, really good, really interesting. This is a series called the Goze Hotaru. This is, again, also featured on Manga Plus. This is the story. Chapter 1 of this is essentially a young girl is slowly going blind, and she meets these sort of traveling performers who are all blind with their one sort of sighted guide. And it is her kind of struggles of slowly going blind and her grandpa, and eventually sort of her town and her grandpa and her brother kind of pushing her to go be a part of this traveling music performance troupe who are all blind. She can join them because she is.
Okay, so this will make me cry. Got it.
Well, it's
the synopsis already made me feel like crying a little bit.
The first chapter just kind of sets all that up, and then I assume the rest of it will be her traveling with him. She loses her sight by the end of chapter 1, spoilers, but so that it's not really about that. It's not like, oh, she's slowly losing her sight and she's losing beauty. It's like it's gone in chapter 1. Now she has to learn how to deal with it and how to grow. So
I know, it sounds really sweet. I love that.
Yeah, and it's a really, really gorgeous art, really interesting way they display sort of blindness and slowly losing it. Really heartfelt kind of positive vibes in this, even though it's sad. So I really, really recommend you go check this one out. That's 5 good manga recommendations in this episode today. So that is called Goze Hotaru. That is by an author called Ko Tosaya. That is also on Manga Plus. You can go read it there. Since it's early chapters, it's free, even if you don't have a subscription. So go check that out. Gautam, tell me what you've been doing with you.
Yeah, I started playing Helldivers 2 yesterday with a buddy of mine. I wasn't really it looked fun. I played Helldivers 1 and it was fun, but this is completely different. This is full on. They embrace the ham, and the gameplay is great, and killing buggos and robots is just really good. I am surprised as to how much fun I had with this game. So I'll keep playing. Yeah, Helldivers 2, great game.
I played a little bit of it. It is very much just it's if you're there with your buds, it's a good time.
Yeah, exactly. Everything feels satisfying. And yeah, I don't know. They just made a solid fucking product.
It's fun and funny. And I think this game does something that all sort of good viral games do. Like, what was the one where you like fly to planets and gather loot? Did everyone play?
Oh, No Man's Sky?
No, it was more recent than that. With like, it was
Deep
all
Rock Galactic?
Deep Rock is a good one, but it's the same style of Deep Rock game, but it came out more recently. Where the tentacle grabs people.
Oh, yes. Fuck.
What is it?
Lethal Company.
Yes, Lethal Company. Helldivers, Lethal Company. I think PUBG did this originally. Any game you can hop in, play, and get a story to tell other people out of it is a game that is going to work and be good.
Yeah, that's well said, because like I feel like every match I've played of Helldivers, I have like a story out of it. You know,
yeah,
like
me too. And I've only played like maybe
it's
8 matches, and it's like I have a story of every
I
single
know.
one of them.
I know. So the fact is, it's like memorable. It's like very memorable. Every match is memorable. It's not like a grind playing through this game.
Emergent
so yeah,
gameplay. Good game.
Is that what it's called? Is emergent gameplay?
Well, emergent gameplay is different. Emergent gameplay is where it's like they set up systems and the systems interact, and that gives you gameplay, sort of Breath of the Wild-y.
Oh yeah, I get what you
emergent
mean.
storytelling, maybe something like that.
Like emergent gameplay would be like when it's storming and the lightning hits you if you're holding a metal weapon or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
All right, cool. Hey, I think that's it for the podcast. Thank you again, everyone, for listening or watching. Don't forget to leave us feedback, comments. Tell us if you read these chapter 1s, come back and comment and tell us how you like them. Which one was your favorite? There's like 4 or 5 new things. They're all sci-fi. They're all very cool. Give us upvotes. Give us thumbs up. Like and subscribe. All that jazz. Check out Twitter and Patreon. I'll link those in the description. And yeah, thank you for being with us yet again this week.
See you guys next time.
And don't forget to read more manga.